Hey, welcome to this trick taking table. I'm taking the edge of my seat, the back edge, woo, as I balance here to show off the wonderful array of games that I got at Indie Games Night Market at PAX Unplugged. If you don't know, we chatted a little bit about it last video, but at PAX Unplugged a week ago, there was a market for indie game designers to make some copies of their games, some wacky ideas that aren't being pitched or Kickstarter or anything, just like fresh new things, and sell them. And it was huge. It was so amazing. I think everyone who worked on it did an amazing job. So Daniel from New Mill, who coordinated, and then also Matt from PAX Unplugged, who set up the line structure, which was amazing because over 500 people, possibly could have been even more, came, and it was absolutely wonderful. I will talk more at length later on in the video, my experience and just some fun things. But to the two big points of this video. One, Indie Game Night Market had a write-up on BGG News by the Chris Ray. We talk about Chris Ray a ton on the channel. And in fact, today we're covering 2 games by him, which might just be the last 2 games. Oh, we'll have to talk more about that as well later on in the video. But the games are Kansas City, the trick-taking game, and T10, with art by the amazing Cy Beppo, which is, of course, as you know, probably our favorite artist on the channel. Art by Cy Beppo, art by Megan Russell, absolutely amazing. And then we're going to talk about, oh, there's the Pez game that I got. Thank you, Manny. Amazing, we got to talk about that more. Also, we're chatting about Betwixt 2 Tricks, one of the other games that I had, the surprise trick-taking game at Indie Game Night Market. We're going to teach those 3. Also, we have to talk about Chris Ray being done making trick-taking games. The trick-taking experiment is over. We have to talk about that. We'll talk about that in final thoughts. And finally, oh my goodness gracious. So, the announcement, we're going to be doing Game Market Vegas at Dice Tower West. That's right. So exciting. Indie Games Night Market went so well. And I was chatting with Daniel about it and just the logistics. And even before Indie Game Night Market and the planning of all that, I was talking with James Nathan about doing something similar to Tokyo Game Market. We were chatting at a con, and it's like, why isn't there something like that in the States? And I think a lot of discussion came out of that, and Indie Game Night Market spawned that. But I always, wanted to do more. Like, I think having a bunch of them, like in Tokyo, there's one, but then there's also one in Osaka, and there's like so many popping around Japan that there was always this idea to do more of them. So I'm so excited that the only con that I really can do events at on somewhat of a big enough scale is Dice Tower West. So I thought it'd be so much fun because also there's a bunch of creative people there, but also it's a good con because there's a good mix of like selling and gaming. I think you kind of want both. Not sure, we'll talk at length later. But having a game market there I thought would be so much fun because also it's such a hub for people, to fly in and a lot of people meet there. So anyway, don't really know the specifics yet, except there's a forum down below if you want to be one of the indie game designers that has a game at Game Market Vegas. Please submit your game at the submission form below. There are some requirements, but it'll be all listed there. And definitely just write a comment if you have any questions or email me or whatever it may be. I'm so excited. Indie Games Night Market was such an exciting time, such a spark, such like pure creativity and joy. It was amazing. And if Game Market Vegas is any fraction of how wonderful that was, it will be a huge success. So please put in a submission if you want to. But for now, before we go and talk about Indie Game Night Markets after the teach, we have to do the teach. So the hooks to Kansas City trick-taking game. Sorry, there was a loud fire truck that went by. But, so the hooks. The games that usually have card info on the back is usually suits, like Scharfschatten or whatever. But in this game, the numbers are on the backs. Like, see how this card has a 7 on the back, well, it's a 7 on the front. But also, the interesting hook, besides that, which is also wonderful and it's done so well, is that when players lose a trick, they can choose any of their cards, usually, and they'll flip it face down in front of them, and then they now have a trump card. So they make the card that was in their hand even stronger, which might be a good thing, might be a bad thing. We'll see in the rules teach. Next, we have T10, which is pretty much, yeah, it's the same deck as the game, Kansas City trick-taking game, where you can see the numbers on the back. Here, I'll open it up here like this. 5 here also has a 5 on the other side with amazing Sai Beppu artwork, but it's in teams now. So similar idea, and I'll actually explain probably just the differences of those because it is pretty much like a teams version of that. Finally, Betwixt 2 Tricks. This was the other game that was part of like the thing I sold at Game Night Market, which was kind of like a system in a way. It's called Betwixt 2 Tricks because you are in between another player who's playing as a character. So if you're familiar with Between Two Cities, it's kind of like that, where I will play like the rank and then the next player will play the suit, and those cards combined into what the person in between us plays, the person. It's like this fake character. And you want to balance your 2 fake characters. So if this one gets a trick, you want this one to get a trick, but like that player might not want that. So it's kind of like mixing, mingling, helping each other out maybe. That's kind of the premise. Last thing I want to say is this game, Kansas City Trick-Taking game, is on Trickster's Table, the amazing app. I'll put a link in the description. It's so good, so you have no reason not to play it. It also not just is implemented on there, but it's implemented on there with the Megan Russell art. So 1,000,000%, you have no reason not to try this wonderful game out. It also, as of maybe a week or so ago, was announced that 6 of 8, the game we covered in the past by Carol DeGros, is coming to Trickster's Table. So just amazing. If you're watching this channel and haven't downloaded that app, I don't know what to tell you. It's just filled and keeps getting filled with amazing, amazing games. Whew. So without further ado, the teach, and then any Game Night Market recap, and then a review of sorts, and then a designer diary of sorts, and then Game Market Vegas chat. Oh, did I mention this video is going to be jam-packed? Oh, let's just take a moment. Moment of silence. Okay. Let's go to the table and I'll teach you how to play these games. Bye! The deck in Kansas City Trick-Taking game is 7 suits numbered 1 through 8. Here we have a 4-player game set up, which in the rules it says it is actually best at 4. So that is perfect. No matter the player count, you're going to shuffle the cards and deal them to each player equally. No cards are cut. So at a 4-player game, you're going to have 14 cards each. Like I said, the hook of the game, the cards have the numbers on the backs. So this card here that says 7 will have a 7 on the other side. So players can see the numbers on the cards that the other players have. The start player for the first round is the player to the left of the dealer. Let's say it's this orange pig, and they can play whatever they want. Let's say they play a 1 in this yellow corn suit. So Kansas City Trick-Taking is a must-follow game. So coming to the passport, they can play either the 3 or the 5. Let's say they play the 3. Coming to the portrait flower, they play the 4. And then finally, coming to this little city emblem, maybe they don't want to win the trick, or maybe they do. So they're going to play the 8. The highest of the lead suit is going to win unless there's trump, but there's no trump yet. So this 8 is the highest of lead suit. They're going to win the trick. They're going to just take all the cards and put it next to them. They will lead the next trick. But first, starting clockwise from the trick winner, the player whose turn it is can choose to flip one of their cards, it could be any of their cards, and have it become trump. So maybe this player right here sees they have 1 red, maybe they don't want red anymore. They're going to flip this card and put it face down in front of them, and that is going to be a 1 in the trump suit. So you do not have to show the players what suit is on the card that you flip. They do know that it was a 1, but now it goes again clockwise. So this player over here can choose to do it if they want. The only restriction is they can't play a number that already exists. Since they don't have a 1, they can do whatever they want. So maybe they play this 2, and then coming over to the flower, maybe they also want to add some trump. They can't choose a 1 or a 2, so they can't choose this 2 here because a 2 in the trump suit is already out. So they're actually going to just play this 8. So now, let's say it is the person's turn to lead. They play a red. So coming to the pig over here, they don't have a red anymore, so they could play trump if they wanted to. They could also just short suit. like playing this 5, but say they do want to win the trick, so they are going to play that trump. Coming to the passport, they have to follow suit. They couldn't just play that trump whenever they wanted. Maybe they're going to play the 5, and then coming to the flower, they also have to follow suit. Maybe they play the 3. Highest card in the lead suit would win unless there is a trump, which is what the orange pig played. So they are going to capture this trick. And again, starting from the player to the left of the trick winner, they're going to choose whether they want to flip a card and have it be trump. Maybe this player wants to, they can't do the 8s because the 8's already out there. So they are gonna pick this 4 and flip it face up. Maybe the flower player passes, they don't want to, and maybe this player also passes and does not want to. Jumping ahead to the middle of the next trick, maybe the orange pig led this purple jazz suit. Coming up to the flower here, they don't wanna win it, so they're just gonna play an 8 off suit, and then coming to the city, they have to follow suit. Maybe they play the 6. Highest of the lead suit will win because there's no trump. And so similarly, they'll collect the trick. And maybe this player over here wants this 5 to be trump. This player over here wants a 1 to be trump, which is valid because the one that was trump is not there anymore. And then this player over here passes. And so now this passport player, maybe they want to lead trump. So maybe they play the 2 of trump. It is must follow on trump, so they know that this flower player up here has to play either the 8 or the 5. Maybe that player plays the 5, this comes out here, and then the pig can play whatever they want because they don't have any trump. Play like this will continue until all the cards are played, so let's jump to the end of the round for scoring. Here we are at the end of the round, and how the scoring works is helpful with this chart here. So depending on the number of tricks a player took, and depending on the player count, they're going to get a certain amount of points. So at 4 players, if you took no tricks, you get 0, 1 trick 5, 2 tricks 10, 3 tricks 15, and then back down after 3 tricks. So the sweet spot is 3. So the orange pig over here got 3 tricks, they get 15 points, whereas this player only got 1, so that's 5. Over here is 10, and this player who took 8 got 0 points. Also, as you can see, you get plus 2 points for each 4 card. So looking at this player over here, they're gonna look through all of the cards that they captured. They got 1, 4. So in addition to 15 points, they also got 2 more points, and that's helpful. As you can see on the card, there's 2 little dots to denote that the 4s are with 2 more points. You'll play 3 total hands, or you can play round per player if you want a longer game, and whoever has the most points at the end wins. And if it's a tie, it's a shared victory, and that's how to play Kansas City, the trick-taking game. Here we have T10 set up, so it's only for 4 players. Similarly, you're gonna shuffle the deck, deal it out. The card play is the same, so it's must follow. You can do the same thing where you flip over a card as trump and put it face down here. Again, only if there's not that number already as trump. Same thing, you're gonna play all the tricks, except the scoring is different. So let's jump ahead to scoring. Here we are at the end, and the flower pig team took 9 tricks, and then the other team, the Passport City team, took 5. And so how the scoring works in the game is it matters both the 4 ranked cards, but also the number of tricks you take compared to the other team. So the team that captures more than the other team is going to get 1 point more for the difference. So 1 point more than they captured over the other team. So for example, if it was 9 to 5 like this team that took 9 are going to get 4 points because 9 minus 5 is 4, so they just get that difference in points. However, the 4 ranked cards are now bad in the game. They're worth -1 point per card captured. So even though this team here got 4 points, they're going to have to look through all their cards and see what negatives they got. Oof. So that's -3 already. Coming over here, see if they got any other ones. So they got 4 points, because that was the only ones, -3. So they got 1 point. Whereas this team over here, they got 0, because they didn't get any differential. But oof, they lost 2. Oh no, they lost 4. So -4 to 1. You're going to play 4 total rounds this way, swapping the dealer. High scorer wins. In the event of a tie, the team that ends the game with the 4 of the continent on which they are playing loses. Wild. I love a tiebreaker that has to do with the location the game is being played. There is a variant way to play where after you get dealt your hand, you actually will choose a number to be your secret pain number. Not 4, so it's not 4 for everyone, but you actually get to choose what number you want, and then it's revealed at the start of a hand. So everyone's going to choose a number. Maybe this player wants it to be 2s because they have a lot of 2s and they want to dish those out. So we're going to do this, and then everyone reveals at the start. Those are set aside. So you're actually going to play 1 fewer trick, so 13 total tricks. But so now that number is what's -1 points in the tricks you capture. And that's how to play T10. Here we have a game set up for 3 players, and this might be a little wild, but just know that the fruits are the actual people playing the game, the one with the cards in front of them, and they're playing cards for the inanimate objects around them. So we have a game set up for 3 players. So at 3 players, you're only going to use 1 to 10 in 3 suits. You're going to shuffle and deal the deck equally. First player for the first trick is the last player to see a ghost, fictional or not, because players, the fruits, are actually specters who got temporally shifted, and they are now playing in between the actual players playing the game. The theme is wild. Let's just go with it. So yes, let's say it's the pig. So how it works is players are always playing the rank to their left and the suit to their right. But what they're playing for is the card that's going to combine for the character in between the 2 players. So, for example, the pig here can play any card they want as the rank. So maybe they play this 5 here. The banana is now going to play the suit for the passport. So the orange pig played the 5, which is the rank that the passport is going to play, but now the banana is playing the suit. Maybe they choose this diamond. So now the passport player has led a 5 of diamonds. So coming to the flower player here, the banana is going to play the rank. Maybe they play an 8. And the apple player has to play the suit. And they must follow suit. So looking at their hand, they actually have to play this diamond here. But now they can play whatever they want as the rank. And maybe they want this player over here to win. So they're going to play the 10, hoping that the pig has a diamond, which they do. So now the highest of the lead suit is going to win the trick, which is the 10 of diamonds. So it's 10 of diamonds, 5 of diamonds, 8 of diamonds. So this compass player is going to take the trick, put it underneath them, the compass character. And now the lead is always going to start with a number. So the apple here is going to play any number they want. And maybe they want this character to keep winning. So they're going to play an 8. Now the pig is going to play any suit they want. Maybe they want it to keep playing diamonds. And then they, since they got a trick here, they want to balance it out. Because I haven't talked about the scoring, but the goal is you want to have balance between your 2 players. This player over here has to play a diamond if they can. Maybe they don't want too strong of a hand, so they're going to play it as the 10. And then they're going to come over here and play a ace. And since it was diamonds, the apple has to play diamonds, but they don't have a diamond, so they can play whatever they want, so they're actually off suit. So now highest of lead suit would win, so now it's the 9 of diamonds. They are going to take that trick, and then float is going to continue. This is going to happen for all of the tricks. So 5 total tricks because players are playing 2 cards per trick. And at the very end, so let's jump ahead to the very end, and maybe it looked a little bit like this. So 2 tricks here, 2 tricks here, and 1 trick here. You want to have a balance between the players around you. So the banana player would win because they have 2 tricks here, 2 tricks here, a perfect balance. Whereas the orange player had 1 here, 2 here, and so did the apple player, 1 here and 2 there. So the banana player would win betwixt 2 tricks. There's also a greedy variant where you play with more cards, but also you have the scoring change a little bit. So let's say it looked like this. And how it works is you're going to look at the lower number of the 2 people, the 2 characters you're in between, and you're going to score that many points. So the orange pig would have done the best because they had a 2 trick win over here and a 3 trick win over here, so they got 2 points, whereas the banana and the apple got 0. Because even though the banana had a 3 over here and the apple had a 2 over here, they both had a 0, and you take the lowest. So the greedy variant is you take the lowest between, and the normal scoring is just you want to balance the 2 in between, the 2 characters in between you, the player. And that's how to play Betwixt 2 tricks.
So that is Betwixt 2 tricks, Kansas City, the trick-taking game, and T10. Put this off for last. I'll do a little bit of a designer diary on that one. But first, Kansas City, the trick-taking game, and T10, and huge grain of salt before the final thoughts, because Chris is a pal, and he sent me these copies, and he gave me this copy specifically of T10, which is just so wonderful, such a nice, sweet gift. So, huge grains of salt. And well, what is actually really funny is when I was trying to come up with carrying cases and ways to sell the deck of cards for Indie Games Night Market for the split deck, I found this little like kind of deck, kind of hard shell carrying case, which works great, it fits the size. And then Chris at Indie Games Night Market walked up and gave me T10, and I was like, this is the same thing I use. And he's like, yeah, they're great. So it was awesome to independently come into that method to give cards as Chris Ray. So take pride in that. Anyway, let's talk about Kansas City, the trick-taking game first, because I think this one is like the main shebang, and then T10 is kind of like teams equivalent, if that makes sense. So Kansas City, the trick-taking game. First off, very, very cool art. Very stark. Reminds me of Letter Tricks, that kind of style that I think Megan does so well. And she's such an amazing artist. I think there's so much that goes into each suit. It's just very evocative. And like, I don't know Kansas City, but I feel like I'm there. I know they are into sports and music, and they have water. Lots of water. And then barbecue. But so, I think overall, I love the aesthetic and the look. Some of the cards are a little hard to differentiate, especially because there's no suits and it's more just like the vibe of the card. So I think for clarity, sometimes we've actually just played with the Sai Beppu art just because it's super clear. But I think as like an artistic art thing, it is gorgeous. Like, it looks really rad. And I know because there's no suits, but there's still like circles or like lines or diamonds, like that definitely helps. But I think just at a glance, it's a little harder than the T10 deck. So I think we play with this a little more. Also because I'm just a Sai Beppu fan addict. But overall, very gorgeous. And it's awesome that this was in Trickster's table. They got this art into Trickster's table. So overall, the gameplay is fascinating. And I will say I'm kind of a shark at this game. I don't think I've ever lost. Something about it. I love the push your luck, the push and pull, knowing when to stop. It's so cool. There's so much fun to a push your luck element being highlighted in a trick-taking game. And I think that is here in spades and hearts and diamonds and clubs. Because the allure to flip a card when you're losing is so strong. So strong. Especially in the middle. When you haven't won a trick yet, you're like, oh, come on. But then you could just run away with it at the end, and it's so tense, so agonizing. The fact that you can't always just keep flipping is so important and so huge. That's such a smart design choice. That only one number can exist in the trump suit not only helps with just the weirdness of, what happens if there's 2 7 trumps played? Like, so that doesn't exist. Because it can't exist. It also not only fixes that, but also adds great decision of, if someone flips an 8 early, then they are winning a trick, like no matter what. And it's cool to play off that. Whereas if they flip an 8 and a 6, someone could flip a 7, and they don't necessarily have 2 tricks guaranteed unless no one flips. So there's really fun, like if this and then that, like kind of a logic to it. I understand that this is the same designer of Magic Trick in Xylotar, right? There's like this known nature to some of the moves, right? Where it's not just kind of random where you're getting into it. Especially when someone flips just a 1 and there's just 1 out there. Like, that could be very well a trick. It depends on what other players flip, but they know that going into it. And also, like, the must follow on the trump is so fascinating. If someone at the start of a trick has a trump, and someone else has a higher trump, and trump is out there and it's led, like, you just know who's winning that trick. It's so fascinating. It's so cool. I think what's interesting is my main critique of the game, and I'll bounce back between compliments and critique, I guess, again. The fact that when you play in person, the numbers being on the backs, it's actually tough in person because people are holding their cards and people are just looking at their cards like they normally did, and it's not very visible to others what the numbers are. It's like you kind of have to do this. And like in a game like 9 Lives or Sharp Shotten, where you just need to see the color, that's pretty obvious when you like have the cards fanned. But when you need to see the number and they're a little small, it's a little harder. So I think there's just like a little usability that it'd be just so hard to fix unless you have like card holders or something. Whereas at Trickster's table, another shout out to Trickster's table, it's all face up because you're playing robots and it's 2D, so you know 100% what the numbers are, and paying attention to that is huge for like part of the game. So I think honestly, Kansas City Trick Taking Game, my two main knocks are just sometimes the suits are hard to read, but then also just the numbers on the back are hard because people are just playing a game, and they're not remembering, oh, I have to show you my numbers. Or sometimes people don't even care, so it's just like, if you're the only one who does care, like it really matters, you're like, oh, could you like show me that or whatever. So it's just, those are like the only hiccups. But again, those are just like non-gameplay related hiccups. I think the scoring makes sense. I think the winning of the fours makes sense. It's that tension of like, oh, do I win this? Do I try to win this four? It's like Yokai Septa. You're like trying to win a trick that has a 7 in it, but not a empty trick. But you still get points for kind of empty tricks unless you take too many tricks at all. It's great. It's just a teeter-totter that is perfectly balanced. It's a push your luck that puts in the player's hands how much they want to push, and they always feel like if they push too much, it's totally their fault. It gives you fun. Oh, the fun part where, so clever again. I think this is just a sign of someone who knows what they're doing. I think it's a sign that Chris Ray has made many trick-taking games before and studies them and knows exactly what he's talking about. Where when you take a card out of your hand, you are not revealing the suit, so you can short suit and not give any information about your hand to other players. So fun to short suit, but also short suit and make your hand stronger. Like I can't think of a game that, there probably is, but like you're making your hand stronger twice, because short suiting gives you more flexibility, but you're also getting a trump. So it's just so fascinating. So cool. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. And you have no excuse not to play it. Go check it out on Trickster's table. Better yet, buy it from Chris. Better yet, do both. Better yet, get this game published. Better yet, also have a wonderful variant that the game plays. So that was Kansas City Trick Taking Game. Huge grain of salt, but I like it. It's a great, great time. So, T10. Again, this is the team way to play. There's two ways to play in this team way to play. There's one that I covered where it's all about the fours, and another one where you choose the number, right? Pretty equivalent to me. I think there's definitely nuance for it, and it is more interesting, but if I'm already playing like a team variant on Kansas City, I think I'm fine with just playing where the fours matter. Because I think we played this a good amount, and I've played on Tricksters a good amount, where I'm like always like, oh, fours are the important cards. So then when you play this and like it's like, oh, it could be a different number, it's cool, but it's tough to be like, oh, it's not fours, right? So I think if I play, I usually just play with fours just for the mental ease. I think it's great. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful time. It's so fun to play off what your partner flips face up as their trump and what you flip face up as your trump, and like using that information. Like there's really fun times where we've been in a team game and the trump is like this funny stalemate where like one team has an 8, one team has a 7, one team has a 6, one team has a 4, and like no one wants to play trump at all. And it's this funny like standoff, right? And that doesn't quite happen in the solo, because usually when someone plays a trump, someone will want to bleed that out, or someone will try to just win a trick and then like leave and not win anymore. So it's interesting in teams, at least maybe it's just the people I play with, where the trump is like this like stalemate sometimes that can lead to even more interesting decisions. So yeah, I think what more to say besides just another fun way to play an already great kind of like system, or kind of an already great game where the teammate adds to it in a fun, interesting way. But like, I don't think I would prefer one or the other, really. Like, honestly, maybe this one just because I play this a lot more and I think the dynamics are really fun. But
hey, interrupting Taylor here. I'll show up later at the designer diary because I forgot to say something about Betwixt 2 Tricks. But I also forgot to say about T10 is the scoring is very tight and often negative. So not a complaint, but something to be aware of. I think the scoring in Kansas City trick-taking game is very big. Yeah, it grows. There's a lot of points to be had. You know, getting 3 tricks is 15, and then all the 4s are worth 2. It's a very growing game, whereas in T10, there's only the difference of the tricks, and usually that's not too many, but then the negative points are brutal. Brutal. So just keep in mind, I think the scoring in T10 is like very subtle, very razor's edge, whereas the scoring in Kansas City is very much like a trick-taking game that, you know, flows and has range and has like ways to bounce around and catch up.
Yeah, either one anytime. So what a way to end off the experiment for Chris Ray. I think in the future, maybe in April, we'll do like a tier list of Chris Ray games. I absolutely adore, for, you know, different reasons sometimes, all the games that he's made, and it's been awesome to be in a time where Chris Ray's stuff is coming out. So it's sad that it's ending, but you know, it's awesome that it happened. I feel like I'm quoting a song. Don't cry that it's over. But what a wonderful one to have as the finale. It's a great time. Thank you so much, Chris. It's amazing. I can't wait to do that tier list, actually. It'd be fun to play a lot of them more, and yeah, it's almost like when you watch all the directors' movies, and then you go back and you see what's similar and what's different, and kind of compare it over time, and not just when I did review like Letter Tricks, where I just really only knew Letter Tricks. So thanks again, Chris. It was awesome.
With the review out of the way, small design diary on Betwixt 2 Tricks before we talk about Indie Game Night Market. This was another of those ideas where it's fun to have yourself play a rank in a suit and have a lot of flexibility. But what if, since it is breaking up the play of a card into the suit and the rank, what if you could work with someone and combine that? So that's where the idea came from. And then I had it to where it was like teams, which totally works. There's like a team game in here for sure that, you know, I've been dabbling on. I think that system really works with a team game. But I've always loved like kind of, what is it, like competitive co-op, cooperative games, like Between Two Cities. And I think that was a huge inspiration, obviously. It's in the name, for Betwixt 2 Tricks. But that premise of working with someone who might not share what you want to do is so interesting, especially in a card game. I played around with the scoring because I think that was the hardest part of this, just because that system is fine and it works and it's totally fluid. I think I played where you just want as many tricks as possible. But then that was tough because you don't have too many tricks, because you play 2 cards for every trick you play, right? So then 12 card hand, which is, you know, good size, is only 6 tricks. So if you're playing 3 players, 6 tricks, that's like 2 tricks each on average. So it was tough to make a game where you want to play a lot. So with that few of tricks, it's always tough to have like a take the most tricks game. I'll mention it in the Indie Game Night Market wrap up, but someone actually, which was so awesome, played these games after buying them at the market and then came back during the market and talked to me about them, which was so awesome. And Blake, who's so great, also mentioned, having played, like, it'd be cool to play 1 round with the same number and then again with the same number, so then there's actually 12 tricks. And so you have a hand of 12 and then a hand of 12 again. And that would totally work. I think there's some fun flexibility to playing with that system of having like just a lot more tricks. It's always just tough, right? Because, you know, you don't get 12 tricks for a 12 card hand, you get 6. So it's like, I think the scoring that is settled on now is fun, where you want to balance it, and there's always 5 tricks. So you have that kind of like, oh, if I take 1 here, then I need 1 here, but then that person doesn't want 1 there, because then they need 1 there. And then once we're all at 3, which, you know, sometimes happens, then it's like, oh, nobody wants a trick, and it's like avoidance. It's funny to have like taking a trick and avoidance with the split deck. It's always fun. So I think this design was really, really that, just like a wacky, fun idea that putting out there in the world, seeing what people think when they play it, and maybe it becomes a game that's more developed, more polished someday. But for now, it's pretty fun just to see how it lands and what people think, and maybe even some fun ideas coming out of it. People have been like, oh, have you thought about this? I'm like, oh, that's so fun. Maybe someone else designed something for it. Who knows? And we're back for the designer diary thing that I forgot. What I loved about Betwixt 2 Tricks is that the lead player doesn't set the suit. The next player to play a card is the one who sets the lead suit for the round. So even though you won the trick and you're kind of starting it off and you play the rank, the next player can choose really what you will have to follow with at the end. So it's cool to have like a split decision. You're always playing 2 cards of the trick, but the leader will actually just play 1 and then it'll come all the way around and then they'll play the one at the end. Whereas people in between are playing 1, 2. So I really like that weird aspect of Betwixt 2 Tricks where even though you're leading, you don't actually set the lead suit, which kind of a goofy thing that I like. And so does Melvin. Melvin likes it too. All right. Okay, bye.
But that is the thought behind the split deck and Betwixt 2 Tricks. Thank you so much if you got it. And yeah, reach out if you have any thoughts or if you played it and liked it, hated it, hopefully liked it. Thanks so much. And now let's talk about Indie Game Night Market. All right, see you over there. So how was Indie Games Night Market? Well, it was amazing. So amazing. Huge kudos to Daniel Newmill, who instigated everything, advertised everything. It was absolutely wonderful. And Matt from Pax and Plug, who kept the line running, everything so smooth. It was absolutely wonderful. So, as you can see, I have a good deal of the games from Indie Game Night Markets, but not all of them. I think it was tough. So when we got there, people only had a certain amount of copies because it is so indie. And I felt bad just being in line early when so many people were lined up and just like, not sniping, but just like getting them before other people could get them. It didn't feel right. But the tough thing was also like, I was manning a booth for like hours. So if I didn't get them then, I was never going to get them. It was this very tough, it was almost like when I've talked to people who are beta readers for a certain book series that they love, and they're excited because they want to help out, and it's such a useful thing to be a beta reader. But then they love the series so much that they are now reading it when it's maybe not complete, and there's like typos, and that might like change the experience for them. So it's one of those things where it's like, if you love something so much, you actually get so ingrained in the process and the details that you can't experience it as much as maybe if you had just gone. But wouldn't give it up for the world. It was absolutely amazing. In fact, once I did break the rule once. I got the Pez from Manny. I couldn't help myself. Just that lineup of Pez was too much. There's just a wonderful mix of nostalgia and like creativity and uniqueness in Pez, and line that up with all the different games that were coming out. It's such a wonderful idea, and it's so indie. It's so like design creativity explosion that I couldn't not. So I did get that one early. That was my one cheat day. But so many wonderful things. So this by Rand, which was very Tokyo Game Market, where it came with just a sheet of rules and then you played with a standard deck, was awesome because he was also selling standard decks there, which is above and beyond a wonderful touch. Because I do think part of the funny things at Tokyo Game Market is they will just sell this, but not the standard deck. So that's amazing that Rand was like, oh, also here's a bunch of standard decks. It added just a loving touch, like a mix of caring, because it was like, hey, I want you to be able to play this game, with everything by here. But also, just seeing all the different standard decks that he found on like eBay was hilarious, and I wanted to buy way too many of them. I did get this one just because it's classic, and I did get a Jurassic Park one because that one is also very funny. I guess I do a lot of stuff for bits. But moving on to some other amazing highlights. This game was a sandwich game by Ryan, who has a wonderful podcast, Intertextual Cardboard Experience, I believe. I was on it, one of the earlier episodes actually. Can't believe it's been so long. But there was this idea for a game where, getting back to like the indie idea of it all, it's tough to have an idea that you're only going to sell a little bit of and not know how to package it, if that makes sense. Like this stuff where it's like you put in a thing, like a Ziploc bag, totally makes sense. And I was packaging in these kind of like deck boxes, but there isn't like a cover, which is tough, and it's hard to fit like the rules in here. So I don't think that's the best solution. But what was amazing was Ryan found a way to make his game not only have a container, which is the Ziploc bag, but have it be thematic. Because this is all about a sandwich. Like, you get made with all the components, like it's your sandwich. And then he was putting name tags on it, like, you know, you make a sandwich for someone for lunch or something, and then you write your name on it and then seal it and gives it to you. It was so personalized, so wonderful, such a clever touch to make it both thematic in the game, but also like sensible and logistical for like where it was, like an indie game market where, you know, you don't have boxes, except if you're like these wonderful people like David or John or Chris, who had actual boxes, which is, you know, absolutely amazing. I think this is maybe Game Crafter, but their level of polish is something else. I think Torchlit specifically is one of the best looking games at the indie game night market, because so much love went into it. But so overall, it was absolutely amazing. It was mostly just wheeling and dealing, and I'm not good at I made a joke many times when I was running the booth that I'm not good at, I'd be a bad bartender, because people come into the table and it's hard to, you know, I'll be chatting with someone and then someone else will want to buy something and then someone will want a pitch of what the games are, and the games themselves are already wild pitches. And what was interesting was the first hour or two, I think people knew the shtick, they knew, you know, what I'm about and all the wackiness, and so they came up and they're like, what do you got? And I'm like, oh, I have a trick-taking game where the ranks and the suits are split. And they're like, perfect, sounds great. And they they were so kind, they would get the wacky idea. And but after like 2 hours, I think it got to a point where there was like newer people who didn't, you know, who were like, oh, what's this? Or like, they didn't know my thing, but they were here for someone else or whatever it is. And they'd be like, oh, you know, what do you got here? And I'm like, oh, this is, you know, trick-taking where the suits and the rank are split. And they're like, what's trick-taking? And I was like, oh no. So at that moment, I would always be like, so trick-taking is this thing, and there's amazing games. There's even amazing games around me that are better than this as an intro to trick-taking. So I think you should go play Chris Ray's game. And then I would like tell them to go talk to Chris Ray. Because as an intro to trick-taking game, I don't think the split deck is a good idea. Just way too wacky. But they're wonderful, wonderful people who were like, oh yeah, I know trick-taking. And then like I kind of pitched them like, oh, that does sound wild. So that was also amazing. I had a couple of very surprising interactions where I met people who commented on the YouTube channel a lot, like John, and it was wild to put a face to a name, or people who were just like, oh, I watched the videos, which were so sweet, and getting to chat with everyone. I also had an experience where someone had bought the game, they went to go play it, and then they came back during Game Market and they had like a rules question or rules clarity, and that blew me away as well. I had done this before with Short Zoot Suit and Of What's Left, where I sold at a market, Tokyo Game Market, and people would buy it and then they'd go off. And I think like Tokyo Game Market is less play. So I think if you are buying a game at Tokyo Game Market, you probably leave, or like you finish your day at the market and then you play later on in the week or later that night or whatever. But I've never had someone play the game, come back and ask me a rules question right away. That was amazing. I absolutely loved it. Sadly, there were some hiccups. One was, so I had 3 games to sell. 2 of them used the same deck, which was the split deck, and one of them was like a flip and write. And for some reason in my mind, I had like 2 products, because the 2 that use the same deck were just like one product. So I had 2 things selling. And I printed out 2 rule sheets, but there were 3 games technically. So I didn't print off the rules for the flip and write game, which was brutal. And I had like a link to a living rule book on the rules for the ones that I did print out. So I was like circling those and like handing it to people and being like, you can find the rules there, I'm so sorry. So it was definitely a bit of a like, oh. And then also, like I said at the top, like there's no labels or anything for the box. So it just looks like this, which, you know, I don't mind, but I'm a weird person. So I think maybe in the future I might get like stickers, or maybe just like make sure that the backs of the cards are facing, because those are kind of work as like the cover in a way. Maybe do a little bit better that way. The last hiccup, which was brutal,
Someone at a booth near me spilled their water and it went downhill and it landed and stopped where I was running my booth. And I was essentially in a puddle for like an hour, which I was like sliding and like splashing, and like I got my like backpack all wet. And I didn't know how to stop it. Like I turned to the person, I was like, hey, I think your water's spilling. They're like, oh yeah, thanks, yeah, no, I know. And I was like, oh no, it's gonna keep happening. And it did. It got a lot more wet before it got more dry. But it added to the wildness. It was a good time. A little splish splash. I think I have a picture of it. Yeah. The other things that were amazing were just looking over and just seeing everyone's table being always busy. They would let people in groups of 10, and that was so nice because I think it gave people like a little bit of a break, but also it gave people like groups. So like if a group of 10 came up, you could do your pitch and kind of like show it off, and then anyone who's interested, you know, would hang around and keep chatting. But the other thing that I thought was so fun was but also like another misguided idea, just because I do a lot of bits and I do a lot of jokes, I had my copy of Kansas City Trick Taking and I put it on my table, and I had a little masking tape underneath, and I said, it's a keep going, like keep going down the line for this game. Because Chris Ray was also there, he had a booth, and he was selling Kansas City Trick Taking games. So it was like a funny joke to me. What I thought was a funny bit at the time was people would come up and they'd be like, oh, what's this? And I'm like, it's an amazing trick taking game right over there. Go check it out. But what was brutal was Chris sold out of Kansas City, I think maybe within an hour or so. And people came up and were like, can I buy this copy? And after that happened just once, I was like, oh, this is not a good bid anymore. And I had to sadly say no and apologize, and then take it down from the table. It was good times though. I think overall indie games night market was absolutely wonderful. The people there buying, selling, both were so accommodating and nice. I think overall it was just a wonderful, wonderful time, and so many more people. So I think they said they stopped counting around 400 something, like 430 or 450 or something. And then people were still coming in, you know, after they stopped counting. But also, when people tried to get in, the line at the very start was so long that they capped it, and they were turning people away just at the very start. So I feel like in a giant auditorium and a ton of space and infinite amount of time at PAX Unplugged, it could have been probably like 600 or something, or 700. But it was wonderful, yeah. And I know a lot of people sold out, and it was overall just a great, great time. So I had a wonderful blast. Thank you again to Daniel and Matt, and it was just a hoot. So hopefully, again, like I said, a fraction of the success at Game Market Vegas, that would be absolutely wonderful. I'm so excited. Hopefully similar creativity, similar excitement, similar just getting games out there and having wonderful, wacky ideas be played and explored is the goal. So hopefully next year it happens again. Indie Games Night Market at PAX. It was absolutely wonderful. I think it'll be a thing. I think it'll start catching on. And hopefully this March you come visit. Thanks so much for watching. Sorry for that really long one, but it was absolute hoot. All right, catch ya later. Bye.